Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, February the 12th, 2024, and time for another mailbag. Thomas here, your host as always. Thank you for joining me. Yes, I cannot promise this kind of regularity, every week or, the way it used to be in the past. But this has been much better than I have been expecting. In fact, I was going to do the mailbag last Monday, right? Like immediately after the first one that I did for this year. But I thought, let me just hold off, see what this next week brings in terms of book mail. It brought quite a lot. I have two very large boxes from the Hachette group to share with you, as well as several packages from other imprints. As I'm sitting here in the chair, the stack comes up to my knee at a sitting level, so that's cool. So let's get into it here in just a second, but other good news, a couple of announcements. First off, new review video tomorrow morning. Look forward to that, a book I had a lot of fun reading. And also, I am well underway in, working on some of these themed videos that I've been yammering on about a whole lot. Like, I'm really excited to be doing this new kind of content. I have come up with an idea for a third, maybe for the summer. So it's been really great coming up with new ideas, new stuff to kind of change it up around here, on the channel a bit. So yeah, these themed videos take a lot more reading to prepare for, but I have been doing a lot more reading than I usually do because of the Thursday night hangouts, which have been a ton of fun. I love seeing now all my regulars on Thursday night just come and hang out. We sit out. I'm on my front porch. We read together for like an hour, 45 minutes or so. The night trains go by. It's a beautiful sound, the whistles of the night trains, and it's just good to kind of be with everyone. So if you haven't been to one of the reading hangouts, if you have time, give it a try. But otherwise, yeah, without further ado, let's get into this week's books. So, I'm going to start here with a couple of these padded mailers from Simon & Schuster. So I suspect some Saga Press titles. No, actually, we're starting with this one from Atria. It's normally kind of like a mystery thriller imprint, but they do some kind of horror supernatural stuff as well, and this is one of those. This is called Lost Man's Lane. The author is Scott Carson. He did, he's done several spooky novels. I think one that came out a couple of years ago was called The Chill, like some, underwater horror, creepy stuff. But let's see what this one is all about. This comes out on March 26th. It says, Dead men, there we go, tell plenty of tales, but they do not lie. Marshall Miller would have remembered her face even if it had never appeared on a missing poster. When a young woman goes missing in his small town, the investigation hinges on Marshall's haunting sighting of her, crying in the backseat of a police car driven by a cop named Maddox. There's only one problem. No local cop named Maddox exists, but the speeding ticket he handed to Marshall certainly does. Dealing with police and media is heady stuff for a teenager, the son of a single mother, but Marshall is sure he can handle it until a shocking day when his reliability as a witness implodes. Now scorned and shamed, he finds unlikely allies as he confronts the ancient secrets behind his small town's peaceful facade and learns the truth of his own family. So I think this is where the spooky element comes in. Lost Man's Lane is a coming-of-age tale that proves why its author has been hailed as a master by Stephen King, and one who consistently offers eerie, gripping storytelling by Dean Koontz. Comes out March 26th, Lost Man's Lane. Nice, chunky, spooky thriller. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. Okay, and these are two more Atria titles. The first one, very happy to see. This is the finished copy in hardcover of The Other Valley. The author is Scott Alexander Howard. This was a book on my anticipated Science Fiction 2024 list. 16-year-old Odile vies for a coveted seat on the Council. If she earns the position, she'll decide who may cross her town's heavily guarded borders. To the east, the same town is 20 years ahead in time. To the west, it's 20 years behind. The towns repeat in an endless sequence across the wilderness. When Odile recognizes two visitors she wasn't supposed to see, she realizes that the parents of her friend Edmee have been escorted across the border from the future on a mourning tour to view their son while he's still alive in Odile's present. Edmee, who is brilliant, funny, and the only person to truly know Odile, is about to die. Sworn to secrecy in order to preserve the timeline, Odile now becomes the Conceal's top candidate. Yet she finds herself drawing closer to the doomed boy, imperiling her entire future. So she is going to have to, you know, do I break the rules or not? But interesting idea, though. What a weird kind of borderland that would be to be trapped in, right? I mean, like, you couldn't go anywhere else. There would be no other town to travel to. Wild. Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard, and I believe this might be out this coming week, like tomorrow. And this next one is also in trade paperback from Atria. I don't quite remember the release date for that, and again, no sell sheet, but I think this one might be a little bit maybe like March or April. You can look it up yourself. Camp Zero, this one's called. The author is Michelle Min Sterling, and it's described by BuzzFeed as reminiscent of Station 11 and The Power. In near-future remote northern Canada, a team led by a visionary American architect is breaking ground on a building project called Camp Zero, intended to be the beginning of a new way of life. A clever and determined young woman, codenamed Rose, is offered a chance to join the Blooms, a group hired to entertain the men in camp. But her real mission is to secretly monitor the mercurial architect in charge. In return, she'll receive a home for her climate-displaced Korean immigrant mother and herself. Rose quickly secures the trust of her target, only to discover that everyone has a hidden agenda, and nothing is as it seems. Through skillfully braided perspectives, including those of a young professor longing to escape his wealthy family, and an all-woman military research unit struggling for survival at a climate station, the fate of Camp Zero's inhabitants reaches a stunning crescendo. Atmospheric, fiercely original, and utterly gripping, Camp Zero is an electrifying page-turner and a masterful exploration of who and what will survive in a warming world. Because, you know, as we all know, it's going to create a whole new class situation, isn't it? And how falling in love and building community can be the most daring acts of all. So here it is, Camp Zero, coming out from Atria Books by Michelle Min Sterling. And next up, we have this arc for a book coming out, I think, pretty much right away. This is An Education in Malice. The author is S.T. Gibson. I think this author's previous book was A Dowry of Blood. I think vampire fiction. Not necessarily my thing, but I did hear good things about it from the people who read it. It says, one of us was always going to bleed for the other. Deep in the forgotten hills of Massachusetts stands St. Perpetua's College. Isolated and ancient, it is not a place for timid girls. Here, secrets are currency, ambition is lifeblood, and strange ceremonies welcome students into the fold. On her first day of class, Laura Sheridan is thrust into an intense academic rivalry with the beautiful and enigmatic Carmilla. Together they are drawn into the confidence of their demanding poetry professor, De La Fontaine, who holds her own dark obsession with Carmilla. Okay, this one's being all on the nose about what it is, but that's fine. But as their rivalry blossoms into something far more delicious, Laura must confront her own strange hungers. Tangled in a sinister game of politics, bloodthirsty professors, and dark magic, Laura and Carmilla must decide how much they are willing to sacrifice in their ruthless pursuit of knowledge, which I assume also includes biblical knowledge of one another, because what other story would you be telling if you call one of your characters, just straight up call her Carmilla? But that's fine. This is probably going to be fun. You know, it's a dark academia with what people are calling spice these days. Good Lord, just say sex. It's okay. So, An Education in Malice in this one is out tomorrow from Red Hook Publishing. Alrighty then, before we get into the two big Hatchet boxes, gonna do some of these smaller packages from Macmillan. 4 of these. Alright, and we're gonna start off with The Butcher of the Forest by Premee Mohamed. Now this is a finished copy in trade paperback from Tor.com Publishing, and to be honest with you, I don't know why I was expecting this one to be a full-on novel, but it's a novella, nice and thin. This one comes out February 27th. And it says, it is a race against time, wherein a world-weary woman must survive a sinister, deadly forest. Woven with the dark and dreamlike intricacy of a medieval tapestry, says author Hiram Ennis. Okay. A dark fairy tale filled with wonder and tension. At the northern edge of a land ruled by a merciless foreign tyrant lies a wild, forbidden forest ruled by powerful magic. Varys Thorn, the only one to ever enter the forest and survive, is forced to go back inside to retrieve Tyrant's missing children. Inside await traps and trickery, ancient monsters, and hauntings of the past. One day is all Varys is afforded. One day. And one misstep will cost everything. Okay. Well, that explains why it's a novella, because you gotta have a story like this be fast-moving and exciting if this person has a one-day deadline. But anyway, February 27th, from Tor.com, The Butcher of the Forest. Looking forward to this. And this one feels like a nice, chunky hardcover. Well, you were wrong, Thomas. It is a nice, chunky trade paperback. But I'm thrilled to have this. This is the finished copy in trade paperback from Tor.com of Martha Wells' The Book of ILE-RIEN. And this is really great because it is showing, along with the re-release of City of Bones, which was, I think, Martha Wells' first novel, or close to first novel. They're showing a real interest now, because of her current popularity, in her extensive backlist, which is wonderful, because and this is basically, this is a bind-up of a duology. But it's set in a fantasy realm that she's, I think, put several novels in, but this is 2 books, The Element of Fire and The Death of the Necromancer, which was a Nebula finalist when it came out. But, for all of her critical respect, Martha Wells, I think, really struggled in her career until Murderbot hit. In fact, she said many times that she was like, should I give up? Right? She was just mid-list forever. Should I give up? But then she jotted down this crazy idea she had for Murderbot, and it's become a huge hit. It's going to be a TV series, and so the Book of ILE-RIEN is now bringing older material of hers to light, and she's done some revisions on them, so these are now like, the author's cut, as it were. So for The Element of Fire, it says, the kingdom of ILE-RIEN lies in peril, menaced by sorceress threats and devious intrigue. When Cade, bastard sister of King Roland, appears unexpectedly at court, the illegitimate daughter of the old king and the Queen of Arryn Darkness herself, Cade's true desires are cloaked in mystery. It falls to Thomas Boniface, captain of the Queen's Guard, to keep the kingdom from harm, but is one man's steel enough to counter all the magic of fairy? And then in The Death of the Necromancer, Nicholas Valliard is a passionate, embittered nobleman and the greatest thief in all of ILE-RIEN. On the gaslit streets of the city, Nicholas assumes the guise of a master criminal, stealing jewels from wealthy nobles to finance his quest for long-pursued vengeance. So this one should appeal to Scott Lynch fans, I think. But Nicholas's murderous mission is being interrupted by a series of eerie and unexplainable fatal events. A dark magic opposes him, and traces of a necromantic power that hasn't been used for centuries abound. Nicholas and his compatriots find themselves battling an ancient evil, and if they lose, death would be preferable to the fate that awaits them. So, you now have an opportunity to sample a couple of Martha Wells' older novels. Once again, one of them, as I said, a Nebula finalist, The Book of ILE-RIEN from Tor.com Publishing. And the next title I have here is The Phalanx Code, which is a Garrett Sinclair novel. The author is A.J. Tata. Now these, of course, are being marketed as sort of mainstream action military thrillers, as it were, but I understand the reason I'm getting sent these now is because they do kind of, feature some near-future-y techno-thriller elements, right? Like this one is about Project Optimus, an ambitious endeavor to empower citizens to protect financial and personal data in the face of increasingly authoritarian federal governments, going face-to-face against the threat from Aurelius Blanc and the Phalanx Corporation. So, very rich kind of, very Hollywoody approach to this kind of thing. But yeah, so if you like this kind of action thrillery stuff, it's all Delta Force guys and, very manly fiction. So yeah, go for it. The Phalanx Code is available February 27th. And I don't think this may or may not be one of these series that you gotta have, read all of them to get them, right? Could be like Jack Reacher. You could just pick up any one of them, right? So, yes, A.J. Tata is the author, The Phalanx Code. And finally, among the Macmillan arrivals, we have From the Forest by Ellie Modesitt Jr. This is from Tor, and this is, the newest in his Recluse series. It's a huge long-running series. I believe this is like the 23rd overall book in the series, but, it's not like one massive storyline, right? It is told in a series of story arcs. And from what I understand, this one begins a new arc in the series, meaning that if you've never read a Recluse novel before and you're curious, you can just pick this one up cold. But it just says, Aliakal, who will one day be known by many names, not all of them flattering, has to climb the ranks of Sayador's Mirror Lancers, fighting against unforeseen weapons and ancient technology. Aliakal, however, has secrets of his own to protect, his ties to the Great Forest, and his Magus abilities. He must silently pretend to be a conventional soldier favored by fate, until that very same fate forces him to choose. Okay, and all you really need to know about the magic system in this world is that I think there's order magic and chaos magic, and other than that, you shouldn't find it too terribly hard to fit in. But From the Forest, I believe, came out mid-January or something, from Tor, the latest Recluse novel by Ellie Modesitt Jr. All right, so we're now going to wrap up with these boxes. I got 2 of these bad boys. Now, to be fair, they're not like super duper heavy, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this. But there's going to be at least a few books in each one, and they've packaged them carefully, which is nice. So let's see what the Orbit folks have sent me. Okay, so 2 books in this first box, and the first one is another copy of Notorious Sorcerer by Davinia Evans. This is the first book in The Burnished City, and something that they've already sent me. So I now have 2 copies of this, meaning that I guess when I schedule this for review, I just might do a giveaway at the same time. Oh, by the way, look for many more giveaways to start happening on this channel with some future reviews. I'll let you know in advance, of course, so that you can be ready for them, but I guess I'll just read this again since I have it again. Welcome to Bazim, where a sword-slinging bravi race through the night, and where rich and idle alchemists make magic out of mixing and measuring the 4 planes of reality. Sion Velo, dockside brat turned petty alchemist, scrapes a living hopping between the planes to harvest ingredients for the city's alchemists. I like that idea. But when Sion accidentally commits an act of impossible magic, he's catapulted into the limelight, which is a bad place to be when the planes start lurching out of alignment, threatening to send the city into the sea. It will take a miracle to save Bazim. Good thing Sion has pulled off the impossible before. Now he has to master it. And so this is described as a dazzling fantasy debut bursting with wild magic, chaotic sword fighting, street gangs, brazen flirting, best kind, malevolent harpies, and 1 defiant alchemist. Right on, so Notorious Sorcerer by Davinia Evans, now available from Orbit. But this next one is one that I have not yet gotten, and so I'm grateful to have it. This is from Red Hook, and it is The Ghosts of Beatrice Bird, a new book by Louisa Morgan. And Louisa Morgan's previous books include A Secret History of Witches, and I think there were several sequels to that, and I believe I have those, and, haven't gotten them onto my TBR because I am who I am, but anyway, I'm really intrigued by this one, though. It's a nice spooky cover. Let's see what it has to say for itself. She was 8 years old the first time her gift caused her trouble. Beatrice Bird is haunted by ghosts, a gift she's had since she was a small child. Unfortunately, it's an ability that has now grown more intense, shifting from flashes and feelings to physical manifestations she can't escape. In a desperate attempt to find relief, Beatrice flees her home, her partner, and her psychology practice in San Francisco for a remote island with only nuns and a few cows for company. She doesn't call home. She sees as few people as she possibly can. Then she meets Anne Iredale, a timid woman who has lost everything that matters to her. For the first time in a long time, Beatrice's gift will be called on to help someone in need. But the ghosts have taken on an even darker edge, and there is something sinister lurking in the shadows. Beatrice may not be enough to stop what's coming for them. It says The Ghosts of Beatrice Bird is an unforgettable story of obsession, redemption, and the magic of unexpected friendship. The Ghosts of Beatrice Bird, from Red Hook. Hachette box the second. This one is a little bit heavier. And the first of these is The City of Stardust, from Red Hook Publishing. The author is Georgia Summers. This is a debut novel, and in fact it was, the first in my list of anticipated fantasy for 2024, because I thought it just had a really intriguing, kind of take on this kind of, I guess, contemporary fantasy, as it were. But it says, once there was a key to elsewhere. For centuries, the Everleys have seen their best and brightest disappear, taken as punishment for a crime no one remembers, for a purpose no one understands. Their tormentor, a woman named Penelope, never ages, never grows sick, and never forgives a debt. Violet Everly was a child when her mother Marianne left on a stormy night, determined to break the curse. When Marianne never returns, Penelope issues an ultimatum. Violet has 10 years to find her mother, or she will take Marianne's place. Her hunt leads her into a seductive, magical underworld of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge, and into the path of Penelope's quiet assistant Alexander, who Violet knows cannot be trusted, and yet to whom she finds herself undeniably drawn. Well, of course, we have to bring that in, but that's fine. With her time running out, Violet will travel the edges of the world to find her missing mother and the key to the city of Stardust, where the Everly story began. Okay, so she is also, finding out about her family and herself and her own identity and who she is as part of this quest, of course. So slip into a lush world of magic, stardust, and family curses in this spellbinding contemporary fantasy from debut author Georgia Summers. And this one has these very pretty kind of moon and stars and lampshades end papers. So nice production on this. But this one actually came out, I believe, in mid-January. The City of Stardust, Georgia Summers from Red Hook, not Orbit, my mistake. Okay, so with the rest of this box, there's 4 trade paperbacks in here, which accounts for the weight. And it looks as if with some of these, I think Orbit is kind of catching up on just sending me finished copies of things, because I always request finished copies when I can get them, so I can have them here on the mailbag to show to you guys, of course. And the first of these is The Bitter Crown by Justin Lee Anderson. This is the second book in the Iden saga. It's the sequel to The Lost War. And of course, Justin Lee Anderson is one of several, I believe, self-published fantasy authors that Orbit has decided to snap up. So, good call there. But The Bitter Crown, I guess, is now available in trade paperback. And what can I say that won't be spoilery, because it's a book 2. The fog of war is lifted and the conspiracy at the heart of Iden finally exposed. Right, well, maybe we should not go any further than that. It just says the quest to retake the country begins here. So, as you can see, large-scale, high-stakes, I guess very, battle-intensive epic fantasy. If you like that sort of thing, then Justin Lee Anderson is here to provide. Bitter Crown. And another of the self-published authors that Orbit has snapped up is Alexander Darwin. First book was The Combat Codes, and now we have the sequel, GRIEVAR'S Blood. So second book in that series, and I believe it's going to be another trilogy. And I think this one is a little bit more, again, haven't read Combat Codes yet, but I get the impression it's a little more sci-fi, a little more going for that Pierce Brown fandom, as it were. But what can I read here? In the second novel of the Combat Codes trilogy, Seago and his team return to the world's most prestigious combat school. Though he'd like to focus on his martial studies, Seago feels the pull of his mysterious past. This saga will now continue, but GRIEVAR'S Blood is available now from Orbit. And next up we have the new book by Alastair Reynolds. So now we're getting into some of the veterans, and this author, of course, is one of my all-time favorites. And this is Machine Vendetta. This is his new and third book in his Prefect Dreyfus series. The first one of these is, now they're calling it Aurora Rising. It actually came out several years back. It was originally called The Prefect, which I like. I like The Prefect. Something about like a deep space, cop story should have that kind of just blunt to the point title, right? But Aurora Rising sounds a little more like epic fantasy. I don't know. And then the sequel was Elysium Fire, and now we have Machine Vendetta. So what happens in this one? A Panoply is a small, efficient police force dedicated to maintaining the rule of democracy among the 10,000 disparate city-states orbiting the planet Yellowstone. Ingvar Tench was one of Panoply's most experienced operatives. So why did she walk alone and unarmed into a habitat with a vicious grudge against her organization? As his colleagues pick up the pieces following her death, Prefect Tom Dreyfus must face his conscience. 4 years ago, when an investigation linked to one of his most dangerous adversaries got a little too personal, Dreyfus arranged for Tench to continue the inquiry. In using her, did Dreyfus also put her in the line of fire? And what does Tench's attack tell him about an enemy he had hoped was dormant? So, Machine Vendetta, the third Inspector Dreyfus novel, finally available from Orbit. And then, finally, we have another trilogy closeout from Orbit. This is The Slain Divine by David Dalglish, and this is book 3 in his Vagrant Gods trilogy, which were preceded by The Bladed Faith and The Sapphire Altar. So this is now complete. Can't really get, obviously, into too much plot detail, being a finale, but, you know, the Everlorn Empire's grip on Thanet is tighter than ever. The god incarnate himself has arrived on its shores to crush the uprising and carry out his final sinister plan. So this one sounds kind of Steven Erikson-y, because, you know, apparently we have gods and mortals battling one another and what have you. At least that's the impression I get. But at least now I can binge these and finish them at some point and find out for myself, can't I? But if you're a fan, it's available now, The Slain Divine by David Dalglish from Orbit. And there you have it. Nice big haul for the second mailbag of the year. Again, it would be nice to see if this kind of regularity could keep up. I mean, we just have to see, right? But in any event, nice to have all of these. Nice to have you here. You guys know the drill. Light up those comments. Let me know which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you and which you would like to see me prioritize for review. And otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, please hit the like button, share the video far and wide, and above all, yes, please subscribe if you have not done so. That's how the channel grows. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wank's armies sometimes get little perks like early access to some of my videos, but mostly the point of the Patreon is to help me pay Matt Olson, my amazing, gifted, talented channel artist who does all of my wonderful thumbnails for me, and who is also a Homo sapien human being, right? Flesh and blood, carbon-based life form, not an AI, right? You will always see human artists here. Right? Tor books, get the idea. Use human artists on you. Sorry. Well, we're not going to get into that drama. But anyway, so I want to thank all of those added people for their additional support. It is greatly appreciated. I want to thank all the rest of you guys for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube. And until I see all of you next time, please stay safe, stay healthy, and happy reading.